Hi everyone. In this video, I want to talk to you about four models of justice. The four models you see on the screen, one model based on the idea of merit, another one based on the idea of equality, one based on the idea of equity, and finally one based on the idea of equality of opportunity. There's a lot of confusion, I have to say, about these four models or these four attitudes, approaches to justice. And the part of the purpose of this video is to make you see, okay, what each one of these represents and what are the implications, right, for each one of these models. Now, merit is the oldest, perhaps most fundamental understandings of justice. Okay, the ancient Greeks, I think it was Plato, who came up with the definition, the very first definition of what's just, and it was something like this: giving everyone their due. That is just. That is what justice means fundamentally. Giving people what they deserve. Okay, that's merit. So, for example, let's say you work in a furniture factory putting together chairs. Okay, so you have an 8 hour shift, and let's say in 8 hours you manage to put 20 chairs together. Okay, and your co-worker next door, he's only able to put together 12 chairs during the same period, right, in 8 hours. Immediately, right, we tend to think, okay, well, if you put more chairs together in the same time, then you deserve more. You deserve a better pay, right? That's how we normally go about this idea of merit. It's very, very intrinsic in our way of thinking, right? Think about also when you go to a restaurant and okay, and you go to a restaurant, you have a good meal, and the server was really, really, really nice, really mindful of your needs, and she brought the food like really quickly, super sweet, super polite, super efficient. And okay, let's say your bill was something like $30, and you want to leave her a good tip, and you think, well, whatever, I'm gonna give her like $10. Okay, to be generous, $30 tip, $30 bill, $10 tip. It's pretty generous. Okay. But then let's say you go back to the same restaurant 2 weeks later, and there's a different server, and this server is nasty, lazy, and slow, and not polite at all, like nasty, like he does not care about your food or about you being having a good time or not. He doesn't care. Same bill, $30. You're gonna give the same tip to the server? I do not think so. I don't think so. You're not gonna give this server the same tip, $10. Mm-mm. And friends, that's the natural way of going about what's fair, what's just. But some people have issues about this mentality, the merit mentality. And those people probably lean towards a different understanding or model of justice, and that is one based on the idea of equality. And but think about what that means though, right now in these two examples. What does that mean, equality? It means paying everybody the same for the same job. Like, okay, so if I gave $10 to this server 2 weeks ago who was really nice, this second server who was not nice at all should get the same $10. Is that fair? Is that just? And if I put together 20 chairs in 8 hours, the person who puts together only 12 or 10, should they get the same pay? Because here's the issue, right? If we allow for different pay based on merit, based on performance, if we allow that, then we're allowing inequalities. We're allowing a situation in which we have people who have more and others who have less. And that's not right, right? That's not fair, some people say. Everybody should get the same. Interesting. Okay, I gotta say, this idea of equality, it's quite recent. I mean, he's been around for, I would say now, what, 300, 400 years, but still, it's recent considering that for centuries, for thousands of years, right, humanity operated basically under the idea of merit when it comes to what's just. Now, I want you to, I want to explore these four models. Especially, we're going to start with this two, with merit and equality. But we're going to do it this way, the way I normally do it in my classes, with considering certain questions, right? Some questions that I present my students, and then we have a discussion. I'm going to show you the questions, and then I'm going to tell you sort of like how the discussion normally goes with my students. Okay, you ready? Let's do it. Okay, so here's the first question I ask my students in class. Do you think a government that pays everyone the same salary is fair or just? Do you think it's even fair to be paid the same salary for the same job? Okay, we have two, kind of like two different scenarios here, probably. Okay, the first one is paying everybody the same. Can you imagine? Try to picture in your mind a society, a system in which everybody gets the same salary. And by everybody, I mean everybody. Doctors, engineers, mechanics, restaurant servers, and everybody else in between. Like everybody. People who clean, janitors, um, everybody getting the same pay. Do you think that will be a good system, a good society? There'll be no inequalities, right? And remember, people who believe in uh, equality, they think, okay, inequalities are evil. People having a lot, other people having very little, that's wrong. And what allows for that state of affairs is beginning, right, from giving, even if you give somebody slightly more than someone else, okay, in the long run, you're going to create huge inequalities because some people are really good at maximizing their earnings compared to other people, right? So, meaning what? Meaning, if you only make $1 more than your coworkers, maybe you're super smart and you can really maximize the value of that extra dollar, and you can end up in 10 years, let's say, with a lot of money because you're really wise, you know how to invest your money and so on. So in 10 years time you can end up with a lot of money, and those people you used to work with, because you don't work with them anymore, well, they have very little, right? They are stuck the same place, but you moved on, moved up to a much better condition. You're able now to afford a nice house, live in a nice neighborhood, and so on. So you see, the ideal for people who believe in equality is no, we should not encourage merit. Merit in the long run, it's going to produce inequalities, and that's what we want to avoid. And because, who wants to be poor? That's just so unfair. And it's so bad. And then people who are at the bottom, they feel resentful, and they might become criminal in their ways, right? Because they see themselves like as stuck at the bottom. So yeah, better have a system of equality. But once again, consider that system though. Because there are places, I can at least think of one example, and that's Cuba, in which by law, pretty much everybody makes the same, have the same salary. Once again, by everybody, I mean doctors, engineers, mechanic, janitors. Everybody gets the same salary. The government establishes what everybody should make, will make, and nobody will make more than that because the country is committed to the idea of communism, right? Cuba, it's a communist regime, and that's not mystery. They're pretty open about this, right? This is the ideal model. This is the best society, right, that can ever be produced, one with no inequalities. Okay, how would you like to live in a place like that, like Cuba? I wonder how many people are moving to Cuba. Is Cuba having like some sort of immigration crisis, like a lot of people trying to move there, or is it the opposite? Is it the case that it's people in Cuba who are trying to go to other countries or escape? Uh, well, think about South Florida, people living in Miami, right? And it's no mystery for people living in South Florida what the reality is in Cuba, and that nobody wants that reality. Everybody in Cuba is trying to escape that reality, that ideal model of absolute equality. Okay, so okay, you might think, okay, that's pretty negative, but think about it. That's a model in Cuba committed to absolute equality, no inequality of any sort. Okay, what about getting the same pay for the same job? Is that even fair? Because here we have something like we have a scenario like the restaurant servers. Okay, why should one get be paid more, get a better tip compared to the other one? Why? That doesn't seem to be fair. Maybe the first server, it's naturally nice, polite, friendly, and the second server not so much for whatever personal circumstances, maybe a difficult, family environment and a very difficult childhood and whatever reason. Okay, the second server was not, it's not a super nice person naturally. Why should he get less money for the same job? No, people should get the same. Really? Think about other cases like educators. I'm an educator, so this is a personal one for me, right? I often ask my students, okay, I said, how many teachers did you have growing up, like when you were in school, who were like really, really good, like I mean, they really inspire you and they were really caring, and most of my students raise their hand, and but then I ask, how many teachers were those? Normally the answer I get is one or two. One or two of probably, I don't know what, 50 teachers or 40 teachers, something like that they had from kindergarten through 12th grade. Um, Only one in most cases, or two, were like really, really great educators. Okay, so then I asked them, do you think those great teachers that you had, they should be paid more money? And most of my students say yes. Yeah, they deserve more. Well, there you go. Then we're operating under that idea of merit. And that creates inequalities. Now, in most public school systems in the United States, the way to go about salaries, right, it's equality, right? So it's really not based on merit. So if you're a new teacher, no experience, zero experience, okay, everybody's gonna get the same. You can be super talented and super passionate about teaching, but you're gonna get the same. Let's say 40 grants a year. That's what you're gonna get. The only merit sort of criterion is having a master's degree. Okay, you have zero experience teaching, but you have a master's degree. Okay, then, okay, we're going to give you 5 grand extra for the master's degree. So you're not going to start with 40 a year, 40,000, you're going to do 45. But that's true for everybody else. So if anyone have that master's degree, they're going to end up making 45, zero experience. Now, once you have 3 years of experience, then you're gonna have a boost, right, in your salary. You're gonna have a 10% increase, and so on. But my point is, it's already established how much money you're gonna make as a public school teacher, right? Regardless of how good of a teacher you are, regardless of how much you care about your students, regardless of how much love and passion you put in your work. And you know what, friends? I've been a teacher and educator for many years now, and I have worked in public schools, private schools, now in a college. And I gotta tell you, especially when I was in public schools, it was very, very sad to see how many, if not most, of the educators, they were not happy. They did not care about their students. They just didn't. They didn't. Which is why it's true when my students say they only had one great teacher, when they were at school, because it's the exception, definitely not the rule. And in a system that encourages, or that it's committed to equality, meaning everybody getting the same pay, I wonder if that is the best system. That is the system that produces the best students. As a matter of fact, and this is no mystery either, United States is ranking, like, last time I checked, it was like 48 in internationally, right, in student performance. Um, so we're not doing great. Like, our public schools, they're not doing a great job educating students. But hey, we have equality, right? Um, Friends, I'm not advocating here for any of these models. I'm just trying to lay out the reality, okay, the reality of what the concept is, what the model is, and what results it produces. That's the only thing I'm trying to make evident here. Okay, so the next question. Do you think it's fair for the government to offer social benefits to individuals regardless of their contribution to society? Regardless of whether they are good or bad citizens? Do you think that's a good government, a fair, just government? For example, should people with a criminal record have the right to vote? Or should people in prison receive food stamps or free health care? Okay, people in prison don't receive food stamps, but should people in prison receive healthcare, free healthcare? Actually, they do. Is that fair? And having the right to vote. I mean, you if you're in prison for being a violent criminal, let's say, why should you have the right to vote? I mean, voting, it's a privilege, right? And if we're working on that mindset of merit, right, we would say you don't deserve the right to vote because you're not a good person. You're a criminal, a sociopath. So that's something you must earn. Okay. So think about that, right? It's funny how when we go from question one to question two, there's a important shift in my students' opinions because everybody, it's like, or most of us are on board with the same conclusions when we address the first question, question one. Like, oh yeah, merit is the way to go, right? Better teachers should get more, a better pay, and nicer, better servers. They also should get a better tip, and so on. And this idea of living in absolute equality, like in Cuba, oh, that's terrible. Okay, we seem to be on the same, on board with the same conclusions there. But when we address the questions here, the second set of questions, Okay, then I see a shift in the way my students think about justice because I gotta say, many of them, actually most of them, in I would say most cases, most of my students would say, no, people in prison, they should have a right to vote. Yes, they should get um, free healthcare, and yeah, people who are not the best kind of people, they should have access to these benefits and to food stamps and so on. Like, well, isn't that contradictory? Why why embracing merit in some cases and in other cases embracing equality? Like, why having this idea that these benefits, the right to vote, food stamps, healthcare, why thinking that these are like inherent rights everybody have, like the right to life and the right to be free? Why do we have this mentality? Because if you think about it, and if you want to be consistent with the idea of merit, then you should say, no, those people in prison, people with a criminal record, people proven to be bad people, they should not get certain benefits. And but okay, well then think about the tip, the server tip as a benefit then. So everybody's entitled to a good tip, like regardless of how good of a server you are. Like really, that makes sense. I mean, we should address that. In most of you, like I'm speaking to my students, right? Most of you said that does not make sense. That the best server should get a better tip, and the worst server should get very little or no tip. And that's what's right. That's what's just. Okay, but now we have a shift of mindset now. I wonder why. I wonder why. Is it compassion? Hmm? Students often appeal to that idea of compassion. Oh, you have to be compassionate with people at the bottom, people, even people who are not good people. We should give them some benefits out of compassion. Or is it compassion or equality? Well, one of the models of justice that we're going to address, and that is equity, has that element of compassion to it. So, but we're going to explore that in a moment. Let me go to the third set of questions. Recently, it's been proposed that people with higher incomes should pay more for the same traffic violation. Is this a fair proposal? Do you foresee any negative consequences? Uh, I mean, think about this. And this is another thing, another set of questions I pose my students. I say, okay, somebody, and I give them this scenario, right? I say, okay, let's say, somebody who is a billionaire, makes millions, has billions of dollars. Okay, he um, runs over a stop sign and he gets a ticket. Okay, and it's $250, let's say, for running over a stop sign. $250. Okay, that is nothing. That is just absolutely nothing for this guy, for this millionaire. But for someone who makes minimum wage, perhaps for most of us, okay, those $250 that we have to pay, gosh, it's bad news. It's really going to have an impact in our finances. And so we're going to feel it much more than that millionaire. And many people think, well, that's not fair. That it's not fair. Fairness requires that millionaire pay more for that, traffic violation. So he feels it. And just like the rest, everybody else does. Oh, so then what's going to be, what criterion are we going to use to determine how much money should they pay, right? Should people pay for a traffic violation? And it's being proposed like, okay, income tax returns, Okay. Based on your income, last year's income, total income, we'll see how much you'll pay for that traffic violation. Whatever. Somebody can put together a number like, I don't know, 0.5% of your income from last year. 0.5%, that's what how much you're going to pay for that traffic violation. Okay, so depending on how much money you make, okay, it's the amount of money, right? When when I present that case to my students, okay, so here we go. We have many of them, many, not sure most, but many say, yeah, that's right, that's fair. People who make more money should pay more. Okay. And then I ask, what about everything else? What about all the other services? Like, for example, healthcare. Why shouldn't rich people pay more for the same procedure? Like if they go to a hospital and they're going to have a physical, why should they pay the same uh, for physical than everybody else? They should pay more for a physical because they can afford it, right? If a physical is what, like let's say $800, okay, that's still nothing for a millionaire, but $800 is a lot of money for everybody else, right? Or for most people. So that's not fair. That's not fair. Do you know? You probably heard so many times. I'm so tired of hearing people, politicians, who say, "Oh, the rich should pay their fair share." Okay, the fair share. How much is that? How much is that fair share? Try to ask the question next time you hear somebody, a politician, or somebody saying, yeah, rich should pay their fair share. Okay, how much is that? What is fair? Who determines what fair is? The fair share. Is it what? 10% of their income? Is that fair? How much they should pay in taxes? Rich people? 10%? Oh, yeah, well, that'll be nice. How about 20%? Oh, that's better. Why not 50%? Okay, why not 80%? If they only keep 20% of what they make, millionaires, I mean, they'll still be so much better off, right? I mean, they'll still they'll still have a lot of money left. So why not 80%? That's what we're gonna tax the rich. Why not 90%? Okay, what is fair though? Tricky question, don't you think? So, but if we're using that mindset, and if we're committed to that mindset, okay, we're gonna make the rich pay more for everything. Why not? If we start with a traffic violation, why not taking it to another level, right? Okay, and now you're going to pay for traffic violations, you're going to pay based on your income, and for healthcare services, you're going to pay also based on your income. And okay, why not for other services, right? For all legal services and for everything else. When they go to a store and buy groceries, okay, they're going to pay more. Oh boy. Uh, where do we draw the line? What is fair? What a vague word, don't you think? When people talk about fairness, you see, that's why it's convenient to ask the question. Okay, what do you mean by fairness? Do you mean, are you, what do you have in mind? Merit, equality? Okay, which one? Okay, just so have a better idea of what you mean by fairness, because equality. This I'm going to tell you what equality means. Equality means something like when it comes to rich people and taxes. Okay, equality will be something like the flat tax, the so-called flat tax idea. For example, everybody will pay 5% of their income to taxes, re- regardless of how much money you make. You made 30 grand last year, you pay 5% of that to Uncle Sam. You made $1 million, you paid 5% to Uncle Sam. You made $1 billion, 5%. For everybody, 5%. There you go. That's equality. For everybody equally, 5%, the same number. Or, or you can set another number, 2%, whatever. But if it's the same for everybody, okay, then that's equality. So, but it's a different equality when you say, okay, well, we're going to apply the same idea for traffic violations. Okay, people are going to pay a percentage of their income, and that's going to be the same percentage. Hmm. Hmm. How do you feel about those two ideas, right? The flat tax idea, everybody paying the same, because friends, we need to be consistent here, right? If we're going to require, or we conceive of a model of government in which we are going to make people pay for a traffic violation based on their income, a percentage of their income. Okay. That way, if you don't make a lot of money, okay, you're not going to pay much for the traffic violation, right? If you make a lot of money, you're going to pay a lot more for the traffic violation. Okay. Well, why don't we apply the same idea to income taxes, right? How much taxes you pay to the government. It should be the same. So if you're rich, 5% you pay to Uncle Sam. You're not rich, 5%. That's it. 5% for everybody. Why not? That seems to be fair. That seems to be equal, right? So, I don't know. Tell me what you think about that. So, I hope you see these as very interesting ideas and not just or interesting questions and questions that force you to think, okay, through, gosh, what do I really mean by fair, by justice? Okay, so okay, that is what we're trying to figure out here. What's the best way to go? Is it merit or equality? Merit or equality? Now, let's consider one more thing about merit before addressing equity. Okay, so there's this idea going around for years now that merit is intrinsically evil, immoral. And as an example, right, there's that book. Gosh, I couldn't believe the title when I read it the first time. I was like, what? The Tyranny of Merit. What's become of the common good? But from the beginning, right, when you see that title in the book, like merit is tyrannical, is evil. Merit, the idea of merit deprives people of certain actions and opportunities, and it limits people rather than empowering people. Like, I mean, think about everything that I've been saying, right? Um, so being better at something, putting together chairs, okay, being better, faster, is that intrinsically bad? Or being a good restaurant server, like being polite to your customer, is that something bad? Or is our thinking, our mindset of, oh, she is a better server, so she deserves more? Is that thinking evil, immoral, wrong? That seems to be the case in this book. Like that seems to be what the this book is trying to say, and it actually is that merit is something tyrannical, evil, um, that it's not concerned with the common good, with what's good for everyone. So, okay. Um, what a thought. So, and I remember hearing one day I had a conversation with a family member about the same thing. This family member believed in the same idea that merit is tyrannical. Oh boy. Okay. Well, here's a quote from the book, and in this quote, right, it's pretty. This quote pretty much summarizes the main thesis of the book. The more we think of ourselves as self-made and self-sufficient, the harder it is to learn gratitude and humility. This is according to the author, Mr. Sandel. And without these ideas, these sentiments, gratitude and humility, it is hard to care for the common good. Okay, so for the author, for Mr. Sandel, uh, there's two things that cannot be true at the same time, right? It's not true that you can think of yourself as self-sufficient and self-made and being grateful and humble. Like for the author, those two things don't go together. But I I don't see why not. I think those two things can be true at the same time. Like my case, I mean, I'm pretty grateful. I'm actually very, very grateful for my life. But I think that I did not get anything for free. I believe to this day that I had to work very, very hard for what I have. So, yes, there was a lot of people who encouraged me, helped me. There were opportunities there for me, but I took the opportunities and I made the best of those opportunities. And those choices, my actions brought me here. So it was, in the end, it was really my own doing. So I I what's wrong with taking full responsibility for my success? I can still be grateful and I still acknowledge people who helped me. So and I still care about the common good. I still care, and it's very important for me. People who know me, they will tell you I care about helping other people. I really do. It's why I'm an educator. So so you see, once you accept those two things and you say, yeah, those two things can be true. Well, the whole premise of the book then it's proven wrong. And then everything else, right? The whole argument in the book, it just collapses. Because yes, it's okay to be proud of your achievements and take credit for your achievements. Yes, you can, and you can at the same time be grateful and be humble and work to make this world a better place and help other people. Those two things can be true. So, but you see, but the title, right? It's so misleading, and people think immediately, oh yes, married is so bad. It's tyrannical. Gosh, so one day I remember asking my students. I said, okay, I said, listen, friends, let me okay, I'm going to give this argument the benefit of the doubt. I said, okay, I'm going to start from a place of at least skepticism. Let's say let's say I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether merit is something evil or something good. Let's say that. I have a I have a policy when it comes to participation in class, right? In my classes, and the it's not a policy really. It's the way I grade class participation, and it's like this. I say, okay, if you're an active participant in my class, if you raise your hand, ask questions, and make comments often, I'm going to give you 10 points. It's a full letter grade, participation. You're an active participant, you get 10 points. You're a somewhat active participant. Sometimes you speak, sometimes I hear your voice, some days I don't. Okay, then you're going to get 5 points for participation at the end of the semester. And if at the end of the semester I don't even remember your voice, how your voice sounds like, then you're going to get 0, which never happens. Well, only happened once, but okay, quite a story. But I'm not gonna share it here. But it never happens because I always ask my students questions directly when they don't want to participate. When I see quiet students in class, I address them directly. I go, okay, so and so, what do you think about this idea or this question? And I make them participate. And I tell them, I do it because I don't want to give you a 0 for participation. I want to give you at least a 5. Now, nobody's going to get a 7 for participation or 4. It's going to be either 10, 5, or 0. Okay? What's the idea behind this criteria for participation? It is simple. Is I want to reward those who participate more. If you don't like to talk in public, okay, I want to encourage you to do that, to express your views, because you know what? That's actually an asset. if you're a good public speaker, if you are able to articulate your arguments and your objections and you use good reasons, man, that's something great for you professionally. I mean, that's something you're going to capitalize on big time. So that's what I'm trying to encourage my students to do and to develop, that skill of, articulating your arguments and so on. So that's why I'm doing it. So, but then after I lay out the whole idea of how I go about the participation grade, then I ask my students, okay, do you think this is unfair? Rewarding with a better grade those students who do better, those students who participate more. Is this unfair? And most of the time, my students say, no, Mr. Molina, it's not unfair. It's not unfair. We see why you're doing it. I have heard students saying things like, well, Mr. Molina, some people are more introverted and it's more difficult for them to to speak in public, say anything, right? And I say, yeah, and I get it. And I get it. And in the idea, again, is not to punish those students, but to make them better professionals. So I really, my goal actually is really try to give everybody in my class those 10 points. It really is. So when I see a student who is, not participating, I usually address my questions to that particular students because I want to give them a better grade and I want them to develop that skill, right? So I don't think that's unfair under any circumstance. But if I apply equality, if I give everybody the same grade, I mean, that will not be fair at all. Don't you think? That will not be fair at all. Like, okay, people, if I end up giving everybody 10 points at the end of the semester, and some of my students, participated maybe only once or twice in class, and others like regularly, why should everybody get all 10 points? Why? I know for a fact that I'll have students complaining about it. Complaining because it's not fair. So what idea of fairness do you have in mind? Merit? I guess. Because if you're thinking you deserve better because you did better, because you spoke more during class, well, that's your idea of merit. You're operating under your idea of justice. I'm sorry, that being merit. So, what do you think? I honestly, I mean, uh, from a skeptical position, from a position of someone who really, really wants to learn. And I tell my students all the time, please help me. If there's something I'm missing, I'm not seeing, please help me see it. Help me see what it's evil or what it's intrinsically unfair, immoral in the idea of merit. What is it? That it allows for inequalities? Well, yes. That some people are going to get A's and some students are going to get B's and others are going to get C's. Others are not going to pass the course. Yes, that's going to happen, but that's not going to be my doing, right? It's going to be your doing. So depending on how you perform, it's the grade you're going to get. Why is that unfair? Why is that immoral? Can you please give me an argument, give me a good objection, something I can say yes. Again, it perpetuates inequalities. It promotes inequalities. Promotes. I'm not sure about that, promoting inequalities. I'm actually trying to promote the opposite. I'm trying to promote, if there's something I'm trying to promote is better academic performance. I'm trying to promote, speaking more in class, develop those skills, those public speaking skills. That's what I'm trying to promote, and that's positive. And I want that for everybody. So So what's wrong with that? Well, okay. I'm repeating myself, so that means I have to go to the next slide. Actually, on the next slide, then we're going to address equity, which is a fantastic, fascinating concept. What a concept, equity. Everybody talks about equity. So, yes, let's do it. Okay, equity. You know, I think that the best way, I thought about this for a couple of days. What would be the best way of presenting the idea of equity? And how do I put together a description definition? I think the best way of doing it though is by showing you that famous illustration of equity everybody have seen, like everybody, and then go from there, because the illustration says so much and so little about this model of justice, equity. Okay, so here it is. Okay, everybody have seen this. And when you look at this illustration, okay, you can sort of immediately perceive something wrong, and you know what's wrong. It kind of like, it's so evident. Um, and not only you perceive the wrongness in this scenario presented here in the illustration, but you also feel outrage, right? You feel anger. You're like, okay, equality as it is presented in the illustration is so wrong. Look at that. Like everybody getting the same thing, but that's not helping the little guy, right? The little guy is trying to watch the game, but he can't because of a system of equality. So maybe, okay, you can ask the merit question. Maybe the little guy does not deserve to watch the game. Okay, that's a different question, but that's not here in this illustration. It's it's just the contrast. It's presenting the contrast between equality and equity. Okay, equality, this is what we get. Little guy cannot watch the game. But in a system like equity, equity will make sure that the little guy gets to see the game. Everybody in the system of equity, in this model, everybody will get the desired outcome. And in this case, in this illustration, the outcome is watching the baseball game, right? So, okay, I remember when I saw this illustration for the first time, I had those feelings. I would say most people have the exact same feelings, right? Gosh, it's not fair with the little guy. Equality is not it's not the way to go. Equity is the way to go. We want that. Yes, we want to make everybody a winner. We want that kind of system. That is the best system. But then I started thinking, gosh, there's something tricky about this illustration, especially the illustration of equity. There's some stuff going on that it's not, obviously it's not evident, it's not visible in the illustration. It seems to be implied in the illustration. Now, this is I think this is funny though. Probably took me a, I don't know, trying to remember, maybe a couple of days thinking about this illustration. It took me a couple of days to recognize what was wrong with the illustration, because the illustration of equity is very misleading. And yes, it's just put in a way that forces the viewer to sympathize with equity immediately and to reject equality. Okay, but there's a whole lot more about that illustration, especially when you try to apply the idea of equity to something that is concrete, like an institution. Okay, so friends, I am a professor at Central Piedmont Community College, also known as CPCC, and equity happens to be one of our core values. And sometimes in different parts of campus, we have like posters listing all our 7 values, the things that pretty much identify us as an institution, our identity, right, expressed in these 7 values. And one of those values is equity. Now, not to brag about it, but I think that it's easier for a philosopher, or for a thinker, or at least for somebody who knows how to reason and can analyze things with a high resolution way of analysis or approach. It's easier for people like that to perceive, okay, what's misleading and where are the flaws of this idea of equity, as at least as presented in the illustration. It was evident to me probably the second day after I watched this illustration. I saw the illustration, and but it's not evident. It's still not evident to most people. And in our institution at CPCC, it's not evident. People talk about equity like equity. We're committed to equity. Okay, nice, because probably they're thinking about the illustration. Do you know what that means? No. Do you know what that actually means for us educators in this institution? Practically speaking, how am I supposed to implement equity in my practice, in my teaching, in my methodology, in the way I grade, in the way I make my assignments? What am I supposed to do being committed to equity? And most people I ask the question to, I haven't asked the question to a whole lot of people, unfortunately, because it can, number one, because I haven't had the chance, and secondly, because I know the conversation can go in the wrong direction. I never try to be, provocative or anything, but I know that when you ask questions, and questions that require analysis, when you ask these questions to some people, they immediately, they feel like they're being attacked. When what I think in reality is that they are sort of becoming aware that there are gaps in their thinking, and they don't want to become aware of that, and they don't obviously want to make that evident, that they don't have a whole lot of grounds for their position and their beliefs, and that's why they get upset when you ask an intelligent question, a question that requires analysis. So most people I ask the question, they say the understanding they have of equity, it's not equity. No, it's not equity. It's not this illustration here. It's equality of opportunity, which is our last model. I want to make this clear though. Most people who believe in equity, in reality, what they believe in is equality of opportunity. They say equity, but they mean equality of opportunity. Those are two very different things. And I'm going to show you in this video. But first, equity. Okay, so if I am committed to equity in my teaching, that means to me just one thing, based on the illustration here. I'm committed to give everybody the desired outcome. In the illustration, the desired outcome is watching the baseball game. In my students, the desired outcome is not only to pass the course, but to pass with an A, with the best grade. That is the desired outcome. So immediately, what does that mean? That means, in theory, that I'm committed to give an A to every single one of my students. I have to make sure everybody gets an A. And I have to make sure I provide the right adjustments and accommodations so every one of my students gets an A. That is the desired goal, the desired outcome. That's what it means to be committed to equity. So, okay. But look, you see in the illustration, the little guy, he is given, these 2 blocks so he can, watch the game. The guy in the middle, he only needs 1 to watch the game. The other guy with the yellow pants, he does not need any of this resources. He can watch the game. So the whole idea of equity in this illustration is something like we have to be wise in how we allocate resources. So the guy at the bottom gets to have more resources so he or she can get the desired outcome. Now, how do I do that as a teacher? How in the world do I do that with my students? I have to give more opportunities to those who are least capable of getting an A. Okay, so I have this situation. We have an assignment that I call forum assignments. They are discussion boards, and these are the requirements, right? I, I I give them a question. I give my students a question. They have to reply to that question. Their initial reply has to be 200 words minimum. Okay, so because I want to see the content of their thinking behind their answers, and then I require them. I say, okay, you have to reply to my question with a minimum of 200 words. You can write more. That's fine. 200 words is the minimum, and then you have to reply to two classmates. Okay, and each reply to a classmate must be minimum 50 words, minimum 50 words long, because I don't want you to just reply, hey, good job, good point, period. No. If you're going to reply to your classmate with a good job, tell me more about why you think what your classmate is saying is good job, deserves that expression. So give me something, okay? And here's the thing about the forum assignment, okay? Here's the thing about these assignments. If you meet these requirements, you get full credit. You get 100. Okay, so it's all in my students' hands. Give me a reply of 200 words minimum, and then reply to two classmates with 50 minimum 50 words each reply, and you'll get full credit for the assignment. Okay, but you know what? Some of my students, they don't write those 200 words minimum replies. They just write, not all of them, but many of them, they write a short reply, or they don't reply to both classmates. Sometimes they reply to only one classmate, and they don't get full credit for the assignment. They don't get an A, okay? For whatever reason. Some students probably are not as sociable and friendly, and they're very introverted, and they don't want to communicate with other students, even though this is something they do online. They're just reading posts and replies, so it's not like a face-to-face interaction, right? But some of my students have expressed that in the past, like, oh, I don't like to reply to people's posts and to my classmates and whatever. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do as an educator committed to equity? I mean, because the commitment seems to be, I have to make sure everybody gets an A. So, okay, for that student who feels uncomfortable replying to classmates, okay, I'm not going to I'm going to exempt them from that requirement, from replying to classmates. So, okay, so-and-so, let's say Mark. Okay, Mark, you don't have to reply to classmates because, you're introverted or whatever. So just provide your 200 words minimum reply, and I'll give you full credit. But then John says, well, he never provides the 200-word reply, but always 50 words. Why? Because he's not very good writing stuff and articulating his thoughts. It's just not good. And he says, well, Mr. Molina, what about me? I mean, I'm not good with this 200-word requirement. So what am I supposed to do as an educator? Okay, well, John, don't worry. Just give me 20 words, and I'll give you full credit. But then I have Maria, and Maria is very forgetful. She just forgets things all the time, and she tells me, Mr. Molina, I forgot to turn in the assignment because I'm forgetful, and I can't help it. It's a problem that I have. It's a real problem. So it's not fair that I'm getting zeros for the assignment simply because I forget. So, okay, so what am I to do about Maria? I'm committed to make sure everybody gets the desired outcome, an A. So, well, I have to consider Maria is forgetful. So I'm going to allocate more opportunities and resources on Maria because in the end, my goal is to give everybody an A. So, okay, Maria, you know what? I tell Maria later, don't worry, okay? You can forget the assignments. I'm still giving you 100. Why? Because I guess I'm committed to equity. I have to make everybody a winner. I cannot give everybody the same conditions, the same requirements, because that's equality. That's equality right there. You can see it on the screen. And then the little guy in my class, that student will not be able to get an A for the assignment. So I cannot do that. I cannot give them the same criteria, the same requirement, the same expectation. I can't. I have to have higher expectations with some students and lower expectations with other students. But how do I know from the start? Like when it's a fresh new semester and I don't know any of the students. Like how do I know who is forgetful, who can write the 200 words, who can't, who is introverted? How do I know that from the start? I don't. So what kind of assignment can I give them that meets the equity requirement? Because I'm committed to equity, giving everyone the desired outcome, the A. How do I do that then? Do you see how problematic it is to tweak assignments, knowing how to allocate resources based on who needs more resources and who needs a break and who is able to meet all the requirements? But because um, let's say Susan, she's really smart, and she likes to write. And well, for Susan, she's gonna have to meet all my demands, all my requirements for my forum assignments. Okay, Susan, I'm sorry, you can do the job. You're not gonna get any break, any help. So you're gonna have to submit your assignment on time, 200 words minimum reply, and then 2 replies to classmate, 50 words minimum. So why? Because you can't handle it. So Susan, you are that guy, with the yellow pants. Do you think that's fair? I'm asking you, viewer. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's a good model of justice, equity? Now, now you might be saying, no, Mr. Mulia, you're getting it all wrong. That it's not equity. Well, probably it's not. It's a different thing. So maybe what you have in mind is not equity. It's something different. Is equality of opportunity. That's what you're really talking about when you talk about equity. That's what you really mean. You mean equality of opportunity. But let me just say, it's very difficult. This is only in school, right? In a school, in an institution, education institution. Look at all the issues that I'm running into, right, with my students and grading and giving them an A and all that stuff. Imagine if you implement this at a government level, like what, in a corporation. Okay, a corporation is committed to equity. What does that mean? What are you going to do with your employees? You're going to give everybody like an executive salary, or what are you going to do? What do you mean by equity? Imagine that at a level of government. You're going to give the little guy more resources, more opportunities, more money because he's the little guy. How do you know who's the little guy? How do you know who's the guy in the middle and the guy who needs no resources? How do you know that? What criteria are you going to use to allocate all these resources? Complicated, don't you think? Very, very complicated. And it seems like I'm reading my notes that okay, the model of equality, it's at least in principle more realistically achievable. And I'm thinking again about Cuba, right? In Cuba, okay, everybody gets the same, no matter, regardless of their profession, everybody gets the same salary, okay? And okay, but that's not an ideal model. We talked about it. And in Cuba, the reality is, yes, there are no inequalities, not rich and poor. Everybody is poor. There you go, but at least it's equality, right? There's no inequalities. Okay, but everybody is struggling. Everybody's poor. Okay, not the best model. I'm talking about equality, absolute equality, in the case of Cuba. But in equity, if we are serious about equity in our government, it'll mean something similar. It'll mean making everybody poor, because in the end, if we are committed, or we entertain the idea of making everybody a winner in our government, okay, who's going to do the menial jobs? Who's going to do the dirty work? Who's going to be a janitor? Who's going to be a mechanic? If we want a system in which everybody is a winner, everybody wants the desired outcome. Like everybody, what? Everybody's going to be a millionaire? Everybody's going to be rich? Okay, that's impossible. That's just impossible. Impossible. Somebody has to do some work, some dirty work. Somebody has to do it. That's the reality. You cannot have with the idea of equity. You cannot have a system in which everybody's a winner, like you see on the illustration. Everybody being prosperous. You can't, but you can. But it is possible to have a system in which you make everybody poor. And that's Cuba again, North Korea. That's another example. Everybody's poor. There's no inequalities. Do you want to live in a place like North Korea or Cuba? Okay, maybe you do. But okay, so the last model, equality of opportunity. And I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry, I'm so repetitive. Most of the time, if not every time, somebody speaks about equity being the thing, like being the thing we're pursuing, and being of an important value. What they mean in reality is equality of opportunity. But equality of opportunity also implies problems, and to be specific, inequalities. So the best way to show you what equality of opportunity is and what it means is the same way, by offering you an illustration. But this is interesting. I tried to find an illustration for equality of opportunity. I couldn't find it online, so I created my own. So I'm going to take full credit for the illustration that I'm going to show you on the next slide. Okay, I did it. You're going to see that it was something that I draw, but I think it illustrates what equality of opportunity really is, and I'm going to try to make the main issue, the main problem with equality of opportunity, I'm going to make it evident also in the illustration. Okay, without further ado, here we go. All right, there you have it. Equality of opportunity. Please take a moment to see this illustration, right? On the left, we have three guys, right? And each one of them is given the same resource, the same number of resources. They have access to the same resources. And those resources are 4 blocks. Everybody begins with 4 blocks, okay? For the guy with the yellow pants, yellowish orange pants, it only takes 1 block for him to get the desired outcome, watching the baseball game. That's the outcome. It only takes 1 block. He has 4, but he only needs 1. Okay, so he's using 1. To the guy in blue pants, he also has 4 blocks. So everybody's getting the same. There's equality there, right? That element of equality. But the guy with blue pants, he only needs 3 blocks. So he has 1, to spare, 1 he didn't need. put together those three blocks, and he now is able to watch the game and get the desired outcome. But look at the guy in the middle. He also got to have four blocks, but you know what? He is playing with his phone. Why? Why? Simple. Because he does not care about baseball. That's it. And that is what's missing in the equity illustration. How do you know everybody wants to watch the baseball game? Everybody wants the desired, that outcome. Some people don't care about the outcome. The guy in the middle in this illustration is just playing with his phone. He doesn't care about baseball. He doesn't care about work. So there he is, sitting on the resources and not using them. Okay, so what do we do about the guy in the middle? Are we going to force him to watch the baseball game? Are we going to force him to get an A if these are students? We can't. But at least he has plenty of opportunities to get an A. Okay, well, that's different. That's not equity. That is not equity. That is equality of opportunity. The guy in the middle, in my illustration, he has all the opportunities to get an A, but he's not taking them. He does not care. So, in reality, friends, and maybe for somebody at my institution, Central Piedmont, watching, probably somebody who's not aware of the difference between equity and equality of opportunity. Okay, this is what we are really doing at our institution. This is what we're really committed to, equality of opportunity. I make sure I provide plenty of opportunities to my students so they are successful and they get an A. Plenty of opportunities. But what can I do if some of those students don't take the opportunities? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to give them an A? Make him a winner? Because I'm committed to make everybody a winner? Make sure everybody gets the desired outcome? No, that's not really what we're committed to. We're committed to equality of opportunity. So now, okay, so those, I think equality of opportunity, it's a marriage, let's say, between merit and equality. It's perfect, right? We are already aware of the benefits of merit. We are aware of the merits of equality, right? Of the benefits of equality. And we already consider those questions, remember? We know sometimes it's appropriate to use the merit criteria. Sometimes it's appropriate to use the equality criteria. At least for some of you, you believe that some people have intrinsic rights. Okay, well, that's sort of what this is, equality of opportunity. Intrinsically, everybody gets to have the same opportunities to get the desired outcome, to get an A, to pass the course. At a political government level, okay, that sounds like the best model of justice. Making sure, having a government committed to making sure everybody have plenty of opportunities to move up, to prosper in this country. That is, that's really, really the ideal, I would say. That's the ideal model. That is the ideal model. We want a government that provides plenty of opportunities for everyone. Everyone. But now, those opportunities rely, or this system relies on individual responsibility. You have to do the work. You have to at least, in this illustration, be able to move those blocks, put them together if you want to get the desired outcome. You have to do something about it, right? So here's the opportunities for you. Now you get to work. So you see, it's a combination of equal opportunities and merit. Do the work. do the work. So going back to my forum assignments, okay, those are the opportunities for everybody, the same opportunities. But you have to give me your reply, 200 words minimum, and you must reply to 2 classmates, and then boom, you get it. You'll get a full grade, 100 points for your assignment. That's it. And you have to do it on time, of course, right? So because that's for everybody the same. I'm not going to cut you a break if you forgot the assignment, because I see most of your classmates did not forget the assignment, so it wouldn't be fair with them. They all submitted their assignment on time. Why should I give you a break? No, you had to also submit the assignment on time. So you didn't? Okay, then you're going to get a 0. Because I'm relying on you're being responsible, right? On you using those opportunities that I'm providing to you. You putting those blogs together. I'm not going to do that for you. So the problem is that equality of opportunity still allows for inequalities. Yes, inequalities. In this system, which I think is the ideal system, there'll still be inequalities. Why? Because some people just don't care. They don't want to do the work. They just don't. I deal with students like that all the time. I give them a chance and then another chance, and I keep providing them opportunities, and they don't take those opportunities. That's not most of my students, but a few. Nope. Hey, here's an opportunity for extra credit here. If you do this, no thanks. If you come to our philosophy club meetings, I'll give you a point towards your final grade. And I see no students in the philosophy club. What am I supposed to do? Give them an A? Nah. But Mr. Molina, you can have students getting A's, students getting B's, and others getting C's, and other students are not passing your course. That was not my fault, right? I provided the opportunities for everybody, those 4 blocks. Everybody got to have those 4 blocks. But if some students don't want to put those blocks together, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to give them what they deserve, because that's what's fair. That's what's just. So, what do you think? What do you think about those 4 models of justice? Merit, equality, equity, and equality of opportunity. Tell me what you think. Post a comment. I would love to know. For now, this video is super long, so I'm going to stop here. And thank you for watching. And like I always say, please post a comment. I will be more than happy to read them. So see you next time.